Some of the most genuinely gifted people you will ever meet have absolutely no idea that they are. This isn't because they're trying to be modest, and it isn't because they're hiding a secret talent. Rather, it's because the very traits that make them exceptional often make them feel like something is fundamentally wrong with them. This is the quiet paradox at the heart of giftedness. Most people equate being gifted with high IQ scores or academic trophies, but true giftedness is less about what you achieve and more about how you process the world. Researchers have spent decades studying subtle psychological patterns that often go unnoticed, even by the people who possess them. If you've ever felt like your mind works on a different frequency, or that you search for things others don't even notice, what follows might explain a great deal about your life. The first sign of a gifted mind is something psychologists call over-excitability. This has nothing to do with being hyperactive or anxious. Instead, it means your nervous system processes the world with a much higher intensity than average. A piece of music doesn't just sound beautiful to you, it moves through your entire body. An idea doesn't just interest you, it consumes your thoughts for days. A simple conversation doesn't just pass the time, it lingers in your mind long after the other person has forgotten it. This isn't sensitivity in a fragile sense, it is sensitivity in a deeply alive sense. For many, this intensity has felt like a burden or a source of exhaustion, when in reality it is a primary signal of a highly complex internal architecture. The second sign is a relentless, almost compulsive need to ask why. As a child, you likely drove the adults around you to the point of frustration. It wasn't because you were being difficult, but because you genuinely needed to understand the underlying mechanism of things. You couldn't just accept a rule. You needed to know the logic behind it. This trait doesn't go away with age. Gifted individuals find it nearly impossible to accept information at face value. While most people are satisfied with a quick, surface-level answer, you are searching for the complete picture. You're comfortable sitting with unresolved questions and complex theories that would make others feel uneasy. This drive for deep understanding is one of the clearest markers of an unusually active mind. Third, you have likely spent much of your life feeling slightly out of sync with those around you. This isn't born from a place of arrogance, but from a quiet, persistent loneliness. This is one of the most common experiences reported by gifted adults. You might find that small talk feels incredibly draining, or that your sense of humor is frequently misread. It often feels as though conversations don't go deep enough, or that your interests simply don't align with the majority. This isn't about being better than others, it's about operating on a different frequency. When you spend years trying to tune yourself down to match the people around you, it creates a specific kind of low-grade exhaustion that is very difficult to name. The fourth sign is a fierce awareness of your own imperfections. While many people use the word perfectionism casually, for a gifted person it is something much deeper. It is a painful gap between the extraordinarily high standards your mind sets and the reality of what you actually produce. This creates a specific brand of self-criticism. You hold yourself to internal benchmarks that no one else can see. Even when others are praising your work, you're acutely aware of exactly where it fell short of your vision. This is linked to high metacognitive ability, the capacity for your brain to evaluate its own thinking process. It's a rare skill, but it often makes you your own harshest critic by design. Fifth, you learn very early how to hide your intelligence. This is a subtle but powerful sign known as intellectual camouflage. Many gifted individuals, especially those who grew up in environments where standing out felt unsafe or socially awkward, learn to slow themselves down. You may have learned to let others speak first, or to stay silent even when you already knew the answer. You realized that being too much, too curious, too intense, or too fast made people uncomfortable, so you adjusted. Over time, this adjustment becomes second nature, and the tragedy is that many gifted adults eventually forget what they're truly capable of because the camouflage has become their identity. The sixth sign is the ability to make connections that others simply don't see.
Your mind doesn't think linearly, it moves in webs and networks. This is often called divergent thinking. You might draw links between a historical event, a scientific principle, and a piece of art, seeing a pattern that connects them all. Often you can't even explain the steps you took to get to a conclusion because your brain performs a rapid, unconscious synthesis of information. Neuroscience shows that gifted individuals often have greater connectivity between regions of the brain that don't typically communicate, meaning your brain is literally wired to find patterns that the majority of the population misses. The seventh sign is a visceral, overwhelming sense of justice. Gifted individuals tend to develop a strong moral sensitivity very early in life. This isn't about following a set of social rules, it's about a deep reaction to unfairness. When you see someone being treated unjustly, it isn't just an observation, it's an emotional weight. This can make navigating the world incredibly taxing because your mind is wired to recognize the fundamental wrongness of the situation. Eighth, you have a very strange relationship with boredom. For you, boredom isn't just a minor annoyance, it is almost physically uncomfortable. This is linked to a high need for mental stimulation. When your brain isn't being fed new information or complex problems, it doesn't just sit idle. Instead, it begins to generate its own stimulation through worry, vivid fantasy, or restlessness. What looks like a lack of focus to an outsider is actually your mind searching urgently for something worthy of its attention. Your brain requires a high fuel intake to stay engaged, and without it, the internal system begins to grind. The ninth sign is the depth of your emotional world. You have likely been told many times that you are too sensitive. In reality, the emotional processing center of a gifted person's brain is often more reactive. You process emotional experiences more thoroughly and slowly than others. This isn't a sign of weakness, it is a neurological reality. You don't feel things more deeply because you are fragile. You feel them because your brain is built to perceive the nuance and weight of every experience. Finally, the 10th sign is a persistent disbelief in the compliments you receive. This is often known as impostor phenomenon. The paradox of giftedness is that the more you know, the more you realize how much you don't know. Because your mind is always reaching for the next horizon, you never quite feel like you have arrived. You are so aware of the vastness of human knowledge that your own contributions feel small by comparison, leading you to believe that any success you've had is simply a matter of luck or a mistake in judgment by others. Giftedness is not about trophies or being the best. It is about a different way of being in the world. It is about processing life more intensely, more deeply, and more relentlessly. If these signs resonate with you, the most important thing you can do is give yourself permission to stop seeing your intensity as a flaw. You don't need to apologize for how deeply you think or how strongly you feel. These aren't problems to be solved. They are the shape of your mind. Understanding that shape is where a much more authentic life finally begins.